imagine your life as a ship being steered by invisible winds. Jung discovered that 90% of our decisions and behaviors are influenced by unconscious psychological patterns, archetypes, complexes, and shadow aspects that operate below our awareness but dictate our choice. In this video, I'm exposing how these invisible forces lead millions of people to waste their potential without ever realizing it. We'll explore Jung's proven psychological framework for identifying these patterns in your own life. You'll discover practical techniques to recognize when you're being controlled by these forces and how to regain authentic control of your choices and direction. The invisible prison, how your life is being hijacked. What if I told you that right now you're living in a prison you can't see? Let's start with a simple question. Why do you keep making the same mistakes? Most of us walk through life believing we're in complete control of our choices. We think we understand why we do what we do. But what if most of what drives your decisions happens below the surface of your awareness? Carl Jung discovered something remarkable about the human mind. Our conscious awareness represents only a tiny island floating on a vast ocean of unconscious forces. Think about that promotion you turned down because it wasn't the right time, or the relationship you sabotaged just as it was getting serious. Or maybe it's the project you keep putting off despite knowing it could change everything. These patterns are stealing your life right in front of you. Jung recognized that these psychological blind spots create invisible boundaries around your life. You make choices you believe are free, but you're actually responding to programming installed years ago. You can't see the prison bars because they're made of your own unexamined beliefs, fears, and conditioning. Consider Michael, a talented writer who kept accepting underpaid corporate jobs despite dreaming of being an author. When asked why, he'd offer logical explanations: stability, benefits, responsibility. But in therapy, he uncovered the real reason. His father had once called creative careers impractical fantasies, and Michael had internalized this as truth. This single belief controlled decades of his career choices. By age 40, he realized he'd spent his entire adult life following someone else's path. This pattern of unconscious limitation appears everywhere. Take Sarah, who found herself in her third abusive relationship. Each time she would say, "This one is different," yet the pattern repeated. Her unconscious mind was selecting partners who confirmed her deep belief that she didn't deserve genuine love, a belief formed in childhood but operating invisibly in her adult decisions. According to Jung, approximately 90% of our mental activity occurs below conscious awareness. This explains why willpower often fails us. You can't simply decide to break a pattern you can't see. Your conscious mind might set a goal, but your unconscious mind holds the real power, causing you to mysteriously sabotage your diet, savings plan, or relationship despite your best intentions. The feeling of being stuck isn't bad luck or lack of effort. It's unconscious forces maintaining the status quo. Even when these patterns cause pain, your mind prefers familiar discomfort over the unknown. As Jung put it, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Are you ready to break free from these invisible chains? Jung didn't just identify the problem, he mapped a way out. The invisible prison has doors, but finding them requires a journey inward rather than outward. The key is expanding your awareness of what's really driving your choices. How might you be secretly sabotaging your authentic life? Watch for common signs: chronic exhaustion, even after sufficient rest. Making decisions primarily to please others. Persistent dissatisfaction despite achievements that should bring fulfillment. Your unconscious mind knows when you're on the wrong path, even if your conscious mind hasn't caught up yet. Think about the last time you achieved something you thought would make you happy, only to feel empty afterward. That emptiness is feedback from your authentic self, communicating that external achievements won't satisfy internal needs. The promotion, The relationship, the house, none of these external changes can fix an internal misalignment. When you notice these signs, it's reason for hope. The discomfort is the first crack in the prison wall, the beginning of awareness that can lead to freedom. The journey toward authenticity requires questioning long-held beliefs and facing aspects of yourself you've worked hard to ignore. But the alternative, continuing to live unconsciously, costs you the most precious resource you have, your limited time on earth. The shadow self, your greatest enemy and ally. Facing what you've ignored isn't just about confronting weakness, it's about recovering lost power. Think about this. The personality traits that trigger you most in other people might be revealing the exact qualities you've disowned within yourself. This hidden territory of your psyche is what Jung called the shadow, and it holds both your deepest fears and your untapped potential. The shadow operates like a hidden room in your psychological house, familiar yet rarely visited. Jung defined it as the collection of parts of yourself that didn't fit your self-image or weren't acceptable to your family, culture, or society. As children, we quickly learn which aspects of ourselves earn approval and which bring rejection. The rejected qualities don't disappear. They get pushed into the unconscious, forming the shadow. The shadow operates by a psychological law of conservation. The energy spent pushing something away strengthens it in your unconscious. Think of it like holding a beach ball underwater. You can keep it submerged for a while, but it requires constant energy, and eventually, that ball will burst to the surface with greater force. This is why Jung famously said, "What you resist persists." Consider James, a corporate executive who prided himself on honesty and integrity. He harshly judged colleagues who bent rules. During a company crisis, James found himself lying to protect his position. After this incident, he experienced profound shame, followed by a liberating realization. His extreme reaction to dishonesty in others was actually a projection of his own disowned capacity for deception. Or Emma, a perfectionist dedicated to flawless performance, who criticized lazy people. When a health crisis forced her to slow down, she discovered she couldn't accept her limitations. Her initial despair gave way to relief as she recognized her judgment of others' work ethic was actually her shadow, the part of herself that longed for rest and acceptance of imperfection. The shadow creates what Jung called projection, attributing our disowned qualities to other people. To work with projection effectively, 1. Identify when someone triggers an intense reaction in you. 2. Ask yourself what quality in them bothers you most. 3. Reflect on how this quality might exist in yourself, perhaps in different forms. 4. Consider how integrating this quality might actually enhance your life. As Jung put it, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Maintaining the division between your conscious self-image and shadow requires enormous psychological energy. It's like running two operating systems simultaneously. This division creates what many experience as chronic fatigue, a persistent sense of incompleteness, or feeling that you're living at half capacity. When authentic energy is tied up in shadow suppression, you have less creative power, less genuine connection with others, and limited access to your abilities. People who've done significant shadow work often report discovering hidden reserves of energy they never knew existed. The most surprising aspect is that our shadow contains not just darker qualities, but also our unlived potential. Jung observed that our greatest gifts often hide in our shadow because they were too threatening to our early environment. The child with natural leadership abilities who was told to stop being bossy might repress those qualities, only to find themselves mysteriously drawn to but resentful of natural leaders later. The goal isn't to eliminate your shadow, but to integrate it with your conscious mind. When integrated, these disowned parts become available resources, expanding your responses to life's challenges. The process begins with noticing your triggers. When someone bothers you disproportionately, ask, what quality am I seeing in them that I might be denying in myself? The reward is substantial: less control by unconscious patterns, improved relationships, dissolved creative blocks, and access to a more complete version of yourself, one that includes all your human qualities, not just the acceptable ones. The persona. Why you feel like an imposter in your own life. Beyond the shadow lies another psychological structure that might be draining your energy without you realizing it. Have you ever walked away from a perfectly successful social interaction feeling inexplicably exhausted? This mysterious fatigue isn't random. It's the cost of maintaining what Jung called the persona, and it might explain why success often feels so hollow. The persona is what Jung described as the social mask we wear to function in society. Think of it as the character you play when interacting with the world. It's the version of yourself you present at work meetings, family gatherings, and social events. Jung saw the persona as necessary. We all need ways to adapt to different social situations. It's the interface between your inner world and the outer world of social expectations. While the persona starts as a useful adaptation, it can gradually take over. Many people lose track of where their persona ends and their authentic self begins. Consider Alex, a corporate lawyer who excels at projecting confidence and aggression in the courtroom. At home, he feels empty and disconnected, unable to access gentler emotions with his family. The very qualities that make him successful professionally, his sharp analytical mind and commanding presence, leave him stranded in emotional deadlands personally. His persona has become so dominant that he no longer knows how to exist without it. The role is playing him. The persona initially forms in childhood as we learn which behaviors earn approval and which lead to rejection. A child quickly discovers that certain qualities get positive responses, perhaps being quiet and obedient, or perhaps being outgoing and entertaining. These discoveries shape the mask they learn to wear. As adults, many of us continue wearing costumes designed for childhood stages, long after the original performance has ended. Like an actor who can't remove his makeup after the curtain falls, we become trapped in roles that once protected us but now confine us. What makes the persona problematic is when we start believing it is who we truly are. Jung noted that the more we identify with our persona, the more alienated we become from our authentic self. This split creates the perfect conditions for imposter syndrome to flourish. You sense something isn't quite right, that the person others see isn't fully real, but you can't articulate what's missing. There are telling signs that your persona has become too dominant. Do you feel relief when plans get cancelled? This might indicate the exhaustion of maintaining a social mask. Do you notice yourself speaking, laughing, or behaving differently depending on who you're with? While some adaptation is normal, dramatic shifts suggest persona dominance. Perhaps most revealing, does success feel strangely empty? When achievements leave you feeling hollow, it often means your persona is achieving goals that don't resonate with your authentic self. Modern life has intensified our persona problems. Social media platforms function as persona factories, encouraging idealized self-presentations. One study of heavy social media users found they reported 40% higher rates of dissociation and identity confusion compared to light users, exactly what Jung would predict from excessive persona development. Professional cultures similarly demand rigid personas, rewarding those who maintain the appearance of tireless productivity and unfailing confidence. This performance leads to persona burnout, an exhaustion that conventional rest doesn't solve because the problem isn't physical fatigue, but the strain of maintaining a false self. What makes the persona so insidious is that, unlike the shadow, it often generates social rewards. People praise the mask you wear, reinforcing your attachment to it. the cost remains hidden. A growing sense of unreality and disconnection from your authentic experience. Jung observed that many patients came to him not because they were failing at life, but because they were succeeding at a life that wasn't truly theirs. Recognizing your persona is challenging precisely because it's designed to appear natural. Jung suggested paying attention to moments of unexpected emotion or fatigue. The goal isn't elimination, but conscious relationship, understanding your mask as a tool rather than your identity. Warning signs: you're living someone else's life. While understanding the persona helps us navigate social situations, many people miss the subtle warning signs that they've crossed from wearing a mask to living a borrowed life entirely. What if the career, relationships, and goals you're exhausting yourself to maintain were never actually yours to begin with? This realization often comes far too late for many people. Therapists report that among their elderly clients, the most common regret isn't about failures or mistakes. It's about lives unlived, choices unmade, and authentic selves unexpressed. Bonnie Ware, who worked with patients in palliative care, documented that the most common regret of the dying was, "I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me." Think about that. Not failed relationships or missed career opportunities, but the fundamental tragedy of realizing, when it's too late, that you never actually lived your own life. Let's examine 5 warning signs that you might be living someone else's life rather than your own. Urgent signals from your authentic self, crying out for recognition. Warning. Sign number 1. Do you wake up feeling drained before your day even begins? Jung called this vital exhaustion, a bone-deep weariness that persists regardless of how much you rest. When living out of alignment with your authentic nature, your psyche constantly expends energy, maintaining the false self, creating an energy leak no amount of rest can repair. This differs profoundly from the healthy tiredness after doing work you genuinely care about, which energizes even as it depletes. Warning, sign number 2. Ever find yourself frozen when facing seemingly simple choices? This decision paralysis emerges when you're disconnected from your own values. Without internal guidance, you're left wondering what you should do rather than what you want to do. Jung observed that patients who couldn't access their own desires became obsessed with external validation, constantly seeking advice and reassurance from others. Warning sign number 3. Have you reached a goal only to feel strangely empty inside? This achievement without fulfillment occurs when external accomplishments fail to provide internal satisfaction, what Jung termed success neurosis. Pay attention to how quickly the joy of achievement fades, or if you're constantly thinking, "I'll be happy when," but the happiness never materializes when you reach those milestones. Warning. Sign number 4. As this emptiness grows, notice how it affects your connections with others. You might find yourself in recurring relationship patterns that leave you feeling misunderstood. These cycles often reflect unintegrated aspects of your shadow projected onto partners, friends, or family. These patterns aren't coincidences. They're invitations to recognize aspects of yourself you've been unwilling to face. Warning sign number 5. Finally, despite external success, do you sense a void nothing seems to fill? Jung considered this persistent emptiness the most telling sign of all, an existential vacuum signaling complete disconnection from your authentic nature. This manifests as quiet desperation that no external achievement can satisfy, even when you have everything society says should make you happy. These warning signs create a framework for self-assessment. One sign suggests mild misalignment. Several indicate significant disconnection requiring immediate attention. Remember, these symptoms aren't character flaws. They're important messages from your psyche that something fundamental needs to change. Jung emphasized that these warning signs are actually invitations to growth. representing your psyche's attempt to guide you back to authenticity. Each symptom points to an aspect of your true self being neglected. Fatigue points to activities that would genuinely energize you. Decision paralysis highlights your need to reconnect with your values. Relationship patterns expose aspects of your shadow needing integration. In our next section, we'll explore specific practices to respond to these warning signs, practical tools to help you reclaim your authentic self and create a life that truly belongs to you. Individuation, Jung's path to authentic living. The warning signs we've explored aren't just problems to solve, they're doorways to what Jung considered life's central task. What if every struggle in your life right now is secretly guiding you home? What if the very conflicts disrupting your life are actually trying to make you whole? Jung called this paradoxical journey individuation, and understanding it might completely transform how you view your struggles. At its core, individuation is the process of becoming your most authentic self. It's about wholeness rather than perfection. Jung believed that our psyche naturally moves toward integration when we stop resisting it. Think of individuation as your soul's compass, constantly orienting you toward your true north, despite competing voices pulling you in other directions. What makes this journey challenging is that it requires facing inner conflicts rather than avoiding them. Jung recognized that opposing forces in our psyche, conscious and unconscious, thinking and feeling, spiritual and material, create essential tensions that fuel transformation. In his own words, the greatest problems of life are fundamentally unsolvable. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. This process unfolds through 4 distinct stages that build upon each other, like piecing together a puzzle where each piece reveals more of your authentic self. The first stage, confession, requires honest acknowledgement of your full reality. David, a successful attorney, began his journey when he admitted that despite his prestigious career, he felt profoundly empty and had been medicating his unhappiness with alcohol. Though terrifying, this confession brought immediate relief and created space for authentic change. The second stage, elucidation, involves understanding the deeper meaning behind your patterns. Rebecca discovered that her perfectionism was a strategy she'd developed to gain her critical father's approval. Before this insight, she constantly felt inadequate. Afterward, she felt compassion for her younger self and could begin loosening perfectionism's grip. The third stage, education, focuses on developing new ways of relating to yourself and others. Thomas, who'd always dismissed emotions as weakness, learned to value his feelings as important information. Initially afraid that acknowledging emotions would overwhelm him, he instead found a new sense of balance and deeper connections with others. The final stage, transformation, occurs when these understandings become integrated into daily life. Maria transformed her relationship with achievement. Instead of driving herself relentlessly to prove her worth, she found herself naturally drawn to meaningful work that energized rather than depleted her. What separates individuation from popular self-help approaches is its embrace of complexity. Many personal development methods promise quick fixes. Just think positive. Individuation recognizes that true growth requires embracing paradox and contradiction. Jung observed that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but this comes with the responsibility of facing your whole self. You can support this natural process in practical ways. Regular journaling creates space to examine your thoughts without judgment. Dream work offers direct access to unconscious material your conscious mind might miss. Creative expression bypasses logical defenses. And honest relationships provide mirrors that reflect aspects of yourself you might not otherwise see. The freedom that emerges from individuation is profound. People who've traveled this path describe a sense of coming home to themselves, no longer fighting against their own nature. They experience less internal conflict, more authentic relationships, and a natural sense of purpose that emerges from their own depths. When you stop expending enormous energy maintaining a divided self, that energy becomes available for creative living. Your work aligns with your gifts. Your relationships reflect genuine connection. And your decisions emerge from your authentic values rather than internalized expectations. Shadow work, transforming your relationships and career. What if the parts of yourself you're most ashamed of hold the key to your greatest contributions to the world? This isn't just a poetic question. It's the foundation of shadow work, the practical application of Jung's theories that can transform your external reality in profound ways. Shadow work transforms us through practical application. When we avoid confronting our shadow, we create recurring patterns with frustrating consistency. The colleague who undermines you might reveal your own unacknowledged competitiveness. The partner who never listens might reflect your own resistance to hearing difficult truths. These external problems serve as mirrors, showing what we've refused to see within ourselves. Here's how to unearth this hidden treasure in practice. Trigger journaling. Record moments of disproportionate emotional reactions. When someone's behavior causes unusual anger or defensiveness, your shadow is speaking. Ask yourself, what quality am I seeing in this person that I don't want to acknowledge in myself? The answers often reveal strengths disguised as weaknesses. Pay attention to disturbing dream figures. They represent disowned aspects seeking integration. Keep a dream journal beside your bed and record impressions immediately upon waking before censorship occurs. Disowned qualities exercise. Create 2 lists, qualities you admire in others and qualities you can't stand. Circle the negative qualities, provoking the strongest reaction. These point to shadow material, aspects you've rejected so completely that you react intensely when seeing them in others. The impact of shadow integration on relationships can be revolutionary. Rachel, a therapist renowned for compassion with clients, found herself bristling with irritation whenever her husband sought emotional support. Her jaw would tighten and her thoughts would race. Why can't he handle this himself? Through shadow work, she recognized she was projecting her own disowned neediness, a quality she couldn't accept as a helper. When she acknowledged her own need for support, her resentment dissolved, creating space for genuine intimacy. Shadow integration transforms career trajectories as well. Alex, an accountant for 15 years, would feel a hollow ache in his chest whenever he encountered creative writing. He dismissed his writing desires as impractical, qualities incompatible with his responsible self-image. Through shadow work, he recognized his judgment of impracticality was actually projected fear. Integrating these creative aspects didn't mean quitting accounting. Instead, he brought creativity into his financial work, developing innovative systems that earned him recognition. Similarly, Marcus, a conflict-avoidant middle manager, repeatedly passed over for promotion, discovered through shadow work his disowned capacity for healthy assertion. He had rejected this quality after witnessing his father's domineering behavior. Once Marcus distinguished between aggression and boundary setting, he integrated this strength. Within a year, he was promoted, and his team reported higher satisfaction under his authentic leadership. When we integrate shadow aspects, we develop what Jung called authentic power, influence emerging naturally from wholeness. This power differs from domination. It's the ability to act from your complete self without projection distortions or identity fragmentation. The perfectionism that once paralyzed becomes healthy attention to detail. Suppressed anger transforms into motivating passion. Feared vulnerability becomes a source of connection. This integration creates secure attachment in relationships, remaining connected while maintaining a strong sense of self. In careers, it manifests as meaningful contributions emerging from your unique combination of strengths, including those once rejected. We stop living in a world designed to trigger our worst reactions, seeing others clearly without projection distortions, and gaining freedom to choose responses rather than react from unconscious patterns. We've journeyed through Jung's map of the psyche, but maps are meaningless unless you decide to travel. As we conclude, ask yourself, what truly matters more than authentic living? Wealth and status pale in comparison to the vibrant energy of being fully yourself. The journey begins with a decision that only you can make. Will you continue sleepwalking through patterns that drain your vitality, or will you wake up and face yourself completely? The paradox Jung discovered reveals that the aspects of yourself you've been avoiding contain the keys to your freedom. Your authentic power is right here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to reclaim it. The greatest tragedy isn't failure. It's living a life that was never truly yours. Carl Jung showed us that what we ignore within controls us from the shadows. But what we're brave enough to face, that becomes our power. This journey isn't about fixing yourself, it's about finally meeting yourself, fully. Without the masks, without the roles, without apology. Because the moment you shine light on what's been hidden, you stop being a prisoner of your past. You stop repeating the same patterns, and you begin living as the person you were always meant to be. So ask yourself, not who should I be, but who am I when I stop pretending? That's where your real life begins, and it starts now. What's one pattern you're ready to break but haven't fully understood yet? A relationship cycle? A fear that keeps showing up? A version of you that no longer fits? Drop it in the comments, because your truth might be the spark that wakes someone else up too.